Program, B.S. English. Course, Literary Criticism. Topic, Aristotle's concept of Hamartia. Prepared by Dr. Shahryar Khan. Question. Discuss in detail Aristotle's concept of Hamartia. Introduction. Hamartia is a controversial term, as Aristotle never fully explained its implications. Like many terms in the Poetics, it has been a focal point of debate ever since. According to some critics, it is a moral failing, while others argue it is an error of judgment. It is necessary to analyze the term within the specific context in which Aristotle mentioned it. The term does not convey its complete sense until viewed in relation to plot and character. According to Aristotle, the tragic hero is not preeminently good and just, yet whose misfortune is brought about not by any vice or depravity, but by some error of judgment. The tragic character should be an intermediate sort of person, which implies that he has his share of moral and intellectual imperfections. But nowhere in Poetics Hamartia is interpreted as a moral failing. It is true that hero may have certain drawbacks, but it is equally true that the misfortune arises from an error of judgment and not from moral failing. Point 1. In this way, it is established that the term Hamartia should not be confused with moral failing. In its actual sense, it is an error which is derived from ignorance of some material fact or circumstances. If we take the example of Oedipus, we see that he is a man of hasty temper, but his misfortune does not really arise out of this. The tragedy occurs because he unknowingly commits a great mistake, that is, he murders his father. In turn, this mistake is the outcome of his ignorance of his true parentage. His hasty temper causes him to act in a particular way, but the main action of the tragedy is about his acting in blindness or ignorance. His intention is good, as he wants to discover the defilement which is the cause of plague in Thebes. The discovery that he is the murderer of his father changes his circumstances. In this way, Hamartia is closely related to the two aspects of plot, that is, peripety and anagnorisis. Hamartia is the cause of misfortune, while peripety is reversal of situation brought about by anagnorisis or realization of the truth. Point 2. Critics have interpreted Hamartia in such a way as to suit different tragedies. Some modern critics also take it as an intellectual error, as we see in Ibsen. The context clearly indicates that Aristotle has not used this term in the sense of an intellectual error. Also, in some modern tragedies Hamartia has been taken as an ethical error, and according to Butcher it is very difficult to draw a line between a moral and intellectual error. The fact is that the concept of Hamartia has changed with the passage of time, and different societies, based upon their cultural and religious beliefs, understand it differently. Point 3. When we come to Shakespeare, we see that Hamartia is an error and not a moral failing. According to some critics, ambition of Macbeth is a moral flaw, but it is not a right way to look at it. It is true that Macbeth is a highly ambitious person and his ambitions have an evil underside. But in Shakespeare the characters are so well constructed that the moral overtones do not apply to them. Macbeth's great fall is not a moral one, but an error of judgment arising out of his character. The difference between Oedipus and Macbeth is that Oedipus acts in ignorance, while the ignorance of Macbeth is immoral and criminal. In Shakespeare, Hamartia becomes really very complex, as it also involves some weak and strong points of character, the particular setting and the intermingling of character and fate. Point 4. The same fact is evident in the tragedy of Othello, where Hamartia is intermingled with various complexities of the character. Here it also has a psychological bent. We can't say that the tragedy of Othello occurs completely because of his impulsiveness, because impulsiveness is a merit in his field of life. Othello is at his best when he decides by instincts, and at his worst when he tries to think. For example, when he relies on his instincts, he says that he can put his life for the faith in Desdemona. His tragedy is that he is forced to think and act in a situation which is alien to him, and he has never tackled this kind of situation before. The matter of love is totally new to him, and his impulsiveness, which has made him a great soldier, proves fatal in his domestic life. Therefore, the Hamartia of Othello becomes really very complex, as some other factors also play their part in it. Point 5. In case of Hamlet, Hamartia turns into a more complex phenomenon. Some critics are of the view that his habit of meditation is the cause of his fall, while some others think that it is his melancholic spirit which is the cause of his tragedy. The matter is more complex because we can never say that Hamlet is completely a meditative sort of person without having the ability to act. Nowhere in the play it is mentioned that Hamlet is not able to act practically. He is always regarded by the people as a good soldier and not a mere philosopher. His melancholic temper is also a matter of controversy because it is not inclined towards mere cynicism. Keeping in view this fact, it becomes really difficult to differentiate Hamartia from the other traits of Hamlet's personality. In case of King Lear, Hamartia seems to be prominent and well defined. One can clearly understand that lack of insight, pride, and hasty temper contributed to bring about Lear's fall. But it is also evident that after expelling Cordelia, he does feel regret, and the curse which he pronounced for Gornil, in fact, is the direct result of this remorse. But with reference to this first fatal error, his fall continues, and as it moves forward it takes on epic grandeur, and in the end his tragedy seems to take on universal implications. Conclusion. In the end we can say that the modern conception of the term Hamartia cannot convey its complete sense. Aristotle used this word in relation to Greek tragedy, and we must remember this fact that Greek tragic theory is a unified theory in which tragic plot and tragic hero are linked with inseparable bonds. The study of Greek tragedy reveals that Hamartia is an error of judgment which causes great suffering and the fall of the hero, but the later interpretations of the term do not seem to be relevant.